Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here. Hope you're having an amazing day. We're taking a look here at Band, seeing what's going on. I actually got this request from one of our community members here. See here, I think it was in our request section for CryptTwins. Thank you very much for the request there. Again, greatly appreciate that. And if you guys aren't part of my Discord community, come on over. We've got a really good group here. Some really awesome traders too. I'm gonna take a look at some of these results here. 350% for a short on Bitcoin recently. Nice catch there for that one. But again, yeah, awesome stuff. We actually have some really good results here too for our OGN trade we took. A nice little short 5x trade, 33%, and a short from Bitcoin as well, from 28.5 to 28.1, about 13%, 9 hours. Again, these are just 5x leverage trades, fully automated through my trading academy and community. So be sure to check that out. Link down below for cryptocash.tech, where I basically share all of my trades with you, and you can automatically follow them through Cornix if you like. More information on my website, of course, or just reach out to me directly if you have any questions on that. So let's talk a little bit about this coin here. What's going on with the big picture? Well, keep in mind this coin has tremendous potential. Just because it did very well in the past doesn't mean it's going to do so again, though. You got to keep that in mind as well. I like to preface, some folks are like, hey, well, it shot to the moon before. Is it going to do it again? Well, the likelihood that's fairly low. We can also kind of see this somewhat of a support and resistance though. So we're just going to go ahead and mark that on the chart so you can see it was a high here that got rejected, consistent low. So we can kind of summarize at $3, pretty close to $3, maybe 305 right in that range. It's going to be a strong resistance level if we make it back to that level. Okay, just keep that in mind. That's kind of an area there we want to pay attention to. We also want to kind of look here at the volume here recently and kind of see where the volume's kind of averaging itself out. We can see we got rejected pretty hard right here with the current amount of volume. Okay, so this previous volume from this range also pretty much established itself as a high. So it's too high right there effectively. In other words, we're going to need to retest that level to be able to sweep that liquidity. And taking a look at liquidity, we actually did sweep that liquidity from the previous time frame. So in truth, that liquidity has been swept, and it would make sense for the price to pull back because of that. You got to keep in mind, a lot of times liquidity gets pulled at random times here, but once it's filled, the direction typically changes. Okay, got to keep in mind too here though, this based on previous fair value gap, there is a little bit more value left here in this range. So there's a possibility we could see the price retest there too. So I guess I know it seems contradictory what I just talked about, but simply put, that fair value gap and liquidity level has been mostly swept. So it makes sense that the price might pull back to this lower fair value gap and fill this range. Now it may not fill the entire amount. You got to keep in mind we got some support here from previous areas. If you look here, there's a lot of support here based on volume. So the price may not drop to fill this whole gap, but there's potential for that to get filled because it increased so quickly that there's a lot of value left. Okay, just something to kind of pay attention to. So speaking of which, let's go ahead and take a look at the most recent high to the most recent low, kind of see where we're at on the fibs. We can kind of see here that we are averaging ourselves out at 1.68 previously, and now kind of closer to that 1.272. So what we want to do here is kind of take a look at, see if there's any patterns here forming on the smaller time frames, and kind of identify a few things here. So of course, we got this sell side liquidity here, no surprise there. Based on liquidity, we can see a little bit of a liquidity range here too that was already filled. What we want to look at mostly though is some moving averages and some key levels on the daily. Okay, let's look at that first here. So looking at the resistances, we've broken through them so far. So we can see the 200-day SMA was a resistance. We broke through that, came back down to retest that 2 days in a row so far. So that could provide a strong support level here, that 1.3 or so, $1.30 could be the new support range. And if we look at the big picture here, we can kind of see that 130 is somewhat of an area over here that the price has had some difficulty passing. So in turn, that could be a new support. But the truth is, us being up over the 200-day SMA and the 50 and the 20 are extremely important things, and that's a very, very helpful situation. Okay? That does kind of reaffirm support here at about 130. If we take a look at the moving averages here, we can also see correction with the RSI. We can see we lost 70 in the RSI, the price is coming down, and so is the amount of volume. Okay, so we're starting to see this money flow index exiting the coin, and that's really just a kind of common practice when you see these kind of pumps like this. So obviously you see that kind of volume, it's coming back down. It's a good chance that the price action may continue lower. So to me, based on what I see here so far, with us having that fair value gap there, even though we have the support level here, we're still going to see this type of gravitation to this lower level. Okay? I wouldn't be surprised if we go ahead and see a wick all the way down to this level here, this most recent high at about 120. So if I were to short, again, this is just strictly hypothetical, I'd consider a short down to the 120 range, and then at that point, consider more so a long. Once again, this is very limited. I'm just looking at the daily, telling you on the big picture what I would do, because it does look like it wants to continue lower. But on the 4-hour, we can kind of see a few different things here. These are all differences. Now let's go and remove the fibs just to kind of give you perspective on what we're looking at here. So we got the MACD here diverging quite strong. So we've shifted momentum from bullish to bearish. We're essentially making lower highs and lower lows. You can see these strong candle wicks though. A lot of candle wicks sticking up there. That does imply that we're building that volume profile at this range. And that also furthermore applies that that's going to be a resistance too for us. Okay, so you got to keep in mind the bears are saying this area will not pass. You shall not pass this area, right? So if you imagine, some Lord of the Rings, Ganon or whatever the wizard's name, he comes in and says, "You shall not pass." That's kind of what happened here. Okay, we got the shall not pass at 145. We've got a potential support here at about 132. Is that going to hold? Well, to me personally, with this kind of momentum and this amount of volume, it doesn't seem like we're likely to see this bounce. It is a possibility, but I think it's less likely. To me, I'd much rather wait for the price to come down lower to take an entry, or consider shorting to that level with a tight stop loss in place. Okay. Again, I want to emphasize the word tight stop loss because most people just kind of go hard. They take a short and then they just leave it. Honestly, you got to monitor those things. You got to set your stop losses and take profits if you're going to walk away, just to ensure that you don't get wrecked. Okay. So when we're looking at all this here, overextension, etc., where are we at here out to the downside? We saw we hit a 9 previously, overextended. Price is coming down. We're now down to an 8. Okay, so we've got about 32 hours of continuation of the downside. The likelihood of bouncing here is higher because we have that overextension to the downside. Okay, so keep in mind, there's a few beneficial factors here letting us know that 130 could be a strong support. But to me personally, I don't think we're going to see that work as a strong support level, just based on the simple fact that we've lost. We have that momentum to the downside, and that TD sequential, while it's beneficial and very helpful, when you start bleeding things out like this, you don't want to rely on one single support. You want to look at a lot of other factors. If we look at these other things here, while we do have some positive contributing factors, there's still the elephant in the room here. We've got this massive amount of downtrend, and it's much more likely to continue down than it would to bounce right back. Okay? So I'd just be cautious and careful. Proceed much more carefully if you're going to take a long position. Okay? Take a look at the Ichimoku cloud here. This will kind of reiterate and reaffirm where we're at here. We're kind of in this no buy zone. Okay, so even though we're bouncing off this tentative support level here at about 126, which is a Fibonacci retracement level here of 0.5, we still need to recognize that this is an area that may not hold. Okay, a lot of times you'll see 0.618 as a common characteristic there. So to me, I would think that we're going to probably see one more leg down before we see the next leg up. That just makes a lot more sense to me. Once again, right now, at this point, with the Ichimoku cloud, it's basically telling us not to take a trade long or short, and I would recommend the same thing until we get confirmation, either breaking above or maintaining below that. Okay? So if the price goes sideways, just say for 24 more hours, we'll naturally be below the cloud, and then we'd actually consider want to take a short at that point. Okay? But for right now, when it's moving the way that it is, this is kind of like a don't touch it coin right now, for better terms. I think it's important to recognize that when you don't have full-on confirmation in either direction, it's best to just leave it alone. So I'm going to wait for a confirmation. If the price breaks down below 126, maybe consider a short to the 110, 120 range. Or a much better area to consider entry would be this 1.618, or sorry, the 0.618 level on Fibonacci, which is $1.20. So I'm going to set my alert for there, reevaluate if the price comes back down to that level, and then see if a long is viable at that point. Again, I want to emphasize, I'm going to review this at that time. I'm not just going to jump in blindly because I saw now that it looks like a good entry. We need to make sure it's a good entry at that time. Okay. So again, I'm more patient. I like to be more selective. There's a reason why we take consistent profits in our Premium Plus group and our Premium group, because we are just waiting for good entries, right? Got a nice little BNB, 9%, 8% Litecoin, 9% PNB. We've been taking a lot of profit from PNB lately. But either way, it's a fantastic experience. Be sure to check that out, cryptocash.tech, if you want to consider that. If not, that's cool too. Just please like, subscribe, follow. We do have Twitter, Telegram, and Discord groups, so be sure to check those out. Everything here to kind of keep you abreast on coins that I review and just important things to know in the market. All right, thanks again for watching. Hope you have a good rest of your day. We'll see you on the next one. Take good care.